Okay, well, this is a brief video I'm putting together to walk you through some of the different aspects of the Access Laboratory. So I've done a couple things. I have out here, this is actually Access. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm using Access 2016. All right, but what we're doing should work for basically any version of Access. So I've written up a new um, laboratory, which I'm going to be putting out onto Google Plus. All right, and the original one was written in a PDF, and the problem was you really there was no way to put it had some built-in controls for be able to do answers and stuff, which didn't translate well from the PDF. So what I've done is I've just gone back and just created it, transcribed the whole thing into a Word document. All right, so this is the lab. Um, Basically, it's you kind of get this first part is really a description of what you need to do to get started within Access. To kind of step you through the different pieces. You can kind of read through this. It gives you the basic mechanics of firing up an Access database. I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to do this live coming up, but this will give you kind of the descriptive. You can take a look at this. Also, describe the different pieces you're going to see inside of it. So objects, you know, some definitions of access objects, tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, um, views, different things. And then what we have is a series of questions. All right. So watch me scroll down here. All right, lab exercise. And these are all going to be related to the Northwind database. All right, so what we're going to show you is basically how to set up a Northwind database in Access, and then that will be the platform that we'll be using for all of these questions. All right, I think I've got like 14 questions. It's pretty straightforward. It's basically just kind of read the question and just kind of count how many different things are out there, in different categories in the database. Okay, so that's that. And as I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this out on to Google Plus so you'll be able to download it. Now, the actual Access itself, let me walk you through the exercise with this. Okay, so what you do is you fire up Access, and the easiest way, so the database we're going to use is Northwind. Northwind is a built-in database that Microsoft has created to demonstrate the functionality of Access, different things you can do. Um, it's actually been around a bit, so it shows up in different versions. So if you're using Access 2007 or basically almost any version of it, there'll be a version of Northwind, and you should be able to replicate this no matter what version of Office you're using. Same functionality. All right. So what we're going to do is there's a what they call templates in that are in Access. What you can do is you can come up to our online templates and just type in North. Okay, Northwind. So type in Northwind, not North. And you'll get this icon should come up. You click it, and what it will do is it'll come up with this Northwind 2007 sample. It explains a small business database. It's like different reports, different things. So basically, and what it by default, what it will do is it'll create a new database. All right, with the name database whatever. So in this case, by default, database 4. It'll put it into wherever you define whatever your default section is. You can put it on desktop, you can put it in documents, whatever. All you really need to do to create this is just click the create button. And what it will do is it'll create the database. It'll create it, populate it with all the data we'll be using, basically that's related to the lab. Okay, so this is what you should see when you get back up. So there's some stuff around security which is not necessary for the lab. All right, but by default, what Microsoft will do, depending upon the versions, I think starting in '07 they did this. Um, some active content has been disabled by default. What basically what has happened is hackers were found that Windows and kind of what Microsoft had done in terms of its scripting languages and is was very extraordinarily useful for hackers. So what they were able to do is basically use this as an attack vector. So by default, what Microsoft has done is kind of positioned it so that when you bring access up, it will certain things will be turned off, or you can, so you have the option of either moving it to a trusted location and enabling content, or moving it to a trusted location, or you can just enable the content. All right. So we're just going to click enable content, which will start up the actual database itself. So what you'll get is a log on screen. All right, but we don't want to log into the database. I think one of the things we had demoed in class is what will happen is if you have like an Access database, if you find a Northwind database already on your machine, what could happen is when you start it up, it will automatically go into application mode. Then you have to get out of the application mode. So by doing this, when you start it up, you basically will come up with a login. All right. And what you'll do is just click the X to take that off the screen. And what we're going to be working with is over here on this left-hand side, all right, which is like the navigation, and basically the navigation bar is what we describe. So what this is basically the application itself. Access is built around objects, this concept of an object. So you can have different types of objects. You can have reporting objects, you can have query objects, you have table objects. Basically, it's described in the document. All right. So this is the ones we're going to be most interested in here. Is so you can actually, if you click through this, what you'll see is different types of objects by group. All right, and some of these things are reports, some of these things are forms, some of these things are, there's different bits of information out here. The ones we see here, this one that has the icon down here is a table. So we really want to be, one of the important things we're going to be looking at is the tables. And to get to the tables, you look under supporting objects. So this is a table, all of the tables that make up the application. So if you double click on them, basically it brings it up into a display. So this is the content of the table. We've got 29 records. All right. Primary key, this would be just the data. So you've got the schema is the company, last name, first name, email address. Basically, all the information you want to have for a customer. Same thing with employees. You can kind of double click on it. It looks, this particular view, described as a view, this particular view is looks a lot like Excel. Basically, it's kind of Microsoft adapted Excel for this particular view. This is what's called the datasheet view. If we go over here up on this, when you're in this view, if you'll come up on the home tab, this far left hand side says views. If you click that, what you'll see is a database view and you'll see a design view. All right. And what the design view is basically what the table looks like. All right, you see a primary key, it has to have one, the ID, which is automatically generated. This is all the database. This is all the database stuff. All right, so this will give us, the view of the database, or if you just want to see what's in the database, what they call the datasheet view. This is the datasheet view, and there's one of these. Basically, this is the all of the tables that run the application. You'll see these are all. So this is, for example, we'll take a look at this. We'll just do a quick right click on it and let's do table properties. So it's a shortcut to a table, but it's ultimately points to the table. Whereas these, I believe, are reports. No, it's a query. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this is a query. Okay. So this is, so I think this is basically all you'll really need to do in order to kind of work your way through the application, through the exercise. Okay. So any questions, give me a yell.